Ladies and gentlemen, this is huge. New York Post, it's all over. DOJ tells California officials to back off, quote, apparent criminal conspiracy to arrest ICE agents. Stand down or face prosecution. The state of California, no state can simply arrest an ICE agent for doing his or her job because federal law supersedes state law due to the supremacy clause of the U.S. Constitution. Okay? So we all know that federal law supersedes state law. But the issue, ladies and gentlemen, is that Democrats do not want to repeal or amend specific statutes. They would rather create hysteria, put ICE agents, their lives and their families at risk. They don't want to run on repealing 8 U.S. Code 1227, 8 U.S. Code 1229, 8 U.S. Code 1325 and 1326, which allows for the deportation of undocumented immigrants. You don't think AOC and Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and Nancy Pelosi and all of these people, and we'll get to Pelosi in a second, you don't think they know exactly how to stop ICE from deporting people? They don't want to amend these laws because they know it's not popular nationwide. Trump won every swing state. He won the popular vote. He completely crushed the Democratic Party on this topic and many other topics. If they wanted to stop deportations, they could amend 8 U.S. Code or repeal 8 U.S. Code 1227, 8 U.S. Code 1229, 8 U.S. Code 1325 and 1326. They just want people to key Teslas and act in the most apoplectic, hysterical manner. And unfortunately, in the case of many lawmakers within California and Illinois and elsewhere, Democrats want ICE agents, their lives, to be at risk. Hit subscribe. Check this out. There will be arrests, almost certainly arrests and indictments of politicians like Pelosi, if not Pelosi, very soon.
General Pam Bondi is here. All right, so Lori Lightfoot, JB Back Ribs Pritzker, they're doxing, they're telling people the whereabouts of ICE agents. Is that legal?
No. And Jesse, first time I've seen the Lori Lightfoot video was just now on your show. She will be getting a letter from us tomorrow to preserve anything that she's done as well to make sure that she's not violating the law. It appears she is. You cannot disclose the identity of a federal agent, where they live, anything that could harm them. Pritzker, same ballgame with him. And, you know, Pelosi got a letter today from Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. So did Brooke Jenkins.
And here's the letter to Pelosi. Federal agents, officers, and prosecutors work tirelessly. Okay, so here you have the letter. The Department of Justice views any arrest of federal agents and officers in the performance of their official duties as both illegal and futile. Numerous federal laws prohibit interfering with and impeding immigration and other law enforcement operations. 8 U.S. Code 1324, 8 U.S. Code 111, 8 U.S. Code 372, 8 U.S. Code 1505. Before departments, agencies, or committees. Okay, further, the Supremacy Clause, which, as I just told you, Article 6 of the United States Constitution precludes a federal officer from being held on a state criminal charge where the alleged crime arose during the performance of his federal duties. That's why Democrats cannot, Democrats, like I said, this is the Medicare for All grift. This is the single-payer Green New Deal. Everything that they claim to stand for is an entire grift. They don't want to actually implement their value system, because if they did, they would never win Congress or a national presidential election again. They even admit, Democrats know their value system is not popular throughout the country. Because if it was, they would run on repealing all of these 8 deportation statutes, 8 U.S. Code 1227 and all the rest. They don't have to go after ICE. They don't have to dox or, God forbid, dox or commit illegal activity or intimidate ICE agents. ICE agents are just federal workers literally enforcing existing immigration and deportation statutes. If they repeal the statutes, you don't have to get upset with ICE. But they would rather get upset with ICE than actually fix whatever they believe is the problem, which is these deportation statutes. They won't do it because the Democratic Party runs on apoplectic hysteria. They can't possibly work within Congress or run on repealing deportation statutes. But let's continue.
DA in San Francisco, we told them preserve your emails, preserve everything you have on this topic, because if you are telling people to arrest our ICE officers, our federal agents, you cannot do that. You're impeding an investigation, and we will charge them if they think they have not met me, because we will charge them if they are violating the law. We will protect our federal agents. They're out there working nonstop, as you're showing right now during a shutdown. These people are out there working to keep Californians safe, yet you've got Pelosi out there saying to obstruct their investigation. You can't do it, and we're going to investigate her now, as well as that DA.
The second that California or Illinois or New York arrests an ICE agent, you are going to get the top Democrat almost certainly investigated, indicted, or the Democrats within that district investigated, indicted, or arrested. Because you cannot arrest an ICE agent if he's performing his duties to enforce existing immigration laws. God, it's so difficult to explain this to the morally superior. If you're a morally superior Democrat and you despise ICE, then change or repeal the deportation laws, genius. It doesn't take Einstein to realize that. But then again, you would have to also pass a Medicare for All bill and Green New Deal legislation, which of course you can't do because your value system doesn't translate to politics. It translates only to apoplectic hysteria. But let's continue.
And Pritzker's on the list too, Jesse.
I'm not a lawyer, but these are warning letters. You send these out to say preserve documents.
Yes.
You've been warned you could face legal action if this continues.
That's right. They got these letters today in California because they cannot impede a federal investigation. They cannot impede federal officers doing their jobs. They're out there risking their lives every single day and night to keep the people of California safe. Yet these lawmakers are insane. They're truly insane by what they're doing. And Donald Trump is
Love Pam Bondi. They're not insane. They're very sane. They know very well that they cannot repeal. Democrats have the chance to repeal specific statutes. They'll lose in Congress, obviously. It's not a winning proposition politically. But if they truly believe their value system, they would repeal the deportation statutes. 8 U.S. Code 1227, 8 U.S. Code 1229, 8 U.S. Code 1325, 1326. They would rather get their electorate, the morally superior, upset at ICE agents. That's a lot. They're very sane. It's called, they're devious. They're deceitful. They're disingenuous. But they're sane. It's completely irrational from a political sense. You would think that you want to repeal certain laws so you don't get ICE agents to enforce those laws. But they're not insane. It's called they're disingenuous and deceitful, and their electorate will just gobble it up. These ICE agents they're so immoral. No, the laws, according to you, are immoral. Repeal the laws. Don't go after ICE agents. Ask AOC and Pelosi to repeal the deportation laws, but they won't do it. Just like they won't pass a Medicare for all. Because the alleged value system does not translate to reality. Hit subscribe if you're new.
Not going to put up with it. We are going to protect our men and women in blue. We're going to protect all of our law enforcement agents, and these politicians aren't going to get away with it anymore.
All right. And something that's really near and dear to our heart here at Prime Time, Irina, the woman who was stabbed on mass transit a couple months ago. Are we going to get justice for Irina?
Yeah, Jesse, we were able to charge that monster with murder on mass transit. That's how we were able to get federal jurisdiction. He has been indicted. And of course, I plan on signing a warrant to seek the death penalty in that case. He had been arrested 14 times, Jesse, as you know, and should have been in jail when he murdered that beautiful, innocent young woman.
I'm glad you're doing that, and he has to face the ultimate justice. We appreciate that. Attorney.
The way the wonderful, morally superior liberal Democrats, progressives, when something so atrocious happens on a train or a metro like that, and a young woman loses her life from a man that was arrested 14 times, zero indignation. The morally superior liberal Democrat doesn't see any righteous indignation, doesn't feel that kind of righteous indignation. An ICE agent literally enforcing laws that Democrats passed, deportation laws. Oh my God, the indignation, the moral indignation. Oh, and then they try to intimidate the ICE agents. Again, it's the height of idiocy to intimidate ICE agents when you can repeal laws in Congress. That's why that they're not going to run on this, because they're already losing the House, but they would lose the House by a greater margin in 26. But at least they would be honest to their electorate and to the country and to the world. If Democrats want to stop ICE agents, then repeal the deportation laws. But again, this is too logical for the wonderful, morally superior. Let's continue. They're going to arrest Democratic politicians. And it's going to happen because, like a moth to a flame, the Democrats don't understand basic logic. Deportation laws can be repealed. You can't go after ICE agents or arrest them.
No, we're saying that if you're an ICE agent and you do these things, we think you ought to be held accountable. And yet no one in Washington, no one above them, no supervisor, no inspector general is holding anybody accountable. There literally haven't been any suspensions or firings for the terrible things that they've done, literally grabbing people, tackling them.
That's part of enforcing the statutes that Democrats helped pass. My God, the deceit, the disingenuous political doublespeak. These are the statutes. No one's going to say, and by the way, 99.9% of undocumented illegal immigrants, according to me, H.A. Goodman, are hardworking, beautiful, amazing, wonderful human beings that benefit any country. However, there are individuals who happen to be criminals or drunk drivers or people that commit the most heinous atrocities that can't go into any country, that can't be citizens of any country because they wouldn't pass the citizenship requirements. We have laws pertaining to citizenship, deportation, immigration laws. If you don't like the laws, then repeal them. Repeal the laws in Congress, Democrats, but you won't do it because, as always, whether it's Medicare for All, Green New Deal, it's all theater. That's why Hollywood is so ingrained within the Democratic Party. It's theater. He can't do anything to ICE agents without likely him getting arrested himself.
When they're U.S. citizens and have done zero wrong.
Unbelievable. Democrats like Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker are pushing on their view to demonize ICE agents, taking his comments coming after Nancy Pelosi threatened to up the ante against ICE, saying, quote, "Our state and local authorities may arrest federal agents if they break California law, and if they are convicted, the president..."
They're going to investigate. They're investigating Pelosi right now for the statements, almost certainly, according to Todd Blanche, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel. There's already an FBI investigation into these statements, almost certainly. That leads to not only Pelosi being criminally charged and arrested, but also might lead to a stock trade, to illegal stock trading, to like the illegal gambling we've been hearing about. Illegal stock trading is even worse. And possibly Pelosi having outperformed the market every single year by a wide margin, Maybe, just maybe, she performed illegal stock trades. Oh, maybe they're linked to her politics. And maybe her stock trades or her financial dealings are linked to her immigration views. Possibly, potentially, who knows? Like the Honorable James Comey says, potentially. So they're planning to arrest. And by the way, Pam Bondi knows that she can arrest Democratic politicians because this is clear cut. The federal law supersedes state law. So it's game, set, match. It's checkmate right there.
Cannot pardon them. We will not be intimidated by politically motivated fear tactics. Here to respond is Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. Deputy Attorney General, thanks so much for joining the program. Let's go specifically to Nancy Pelosi. Local agents, local cops cannot arrest federal agents, right?
Of course they can. And what the Congresswoman did yesterday, what the governor of Illinois said yesterday, does nothing but harm this country. You cannot touch federal agents when they're doing their job. And that's something that they know. It's something that we reminded them of last night, because if you do, you're committing a crime. And the amazing thing about what happened is yesterday, President Trump announced and formally launched the Homeland Security Task Force. This is, in our modern history, the single largest effort by law enforcement to combat narco-terrorists and to get the scourge and the drug dealers out of this country. In just 60 days, we've arrested over 3,200 drug dealers and either gotten them out of this country or put them in jail. On that same day, you have Pelosi, you have other congresswomen, you have a congressman from New York, and you have the governor of Illinois not praising that, not thanking President Trump, but saying that federal law enforcement agents should be arrested. That's the best example of the difference between what this administration is doing and what the Democrats want done. And it's sad, and I feel bad for our federal law enforcement and their families and their wives and their husbands and their children when their mom goes to work every day putting their life on their line, and they have governors and leaders in the Democrat Party suggesting they should be arrested.
He didn't just
disgusting.
say that, Todd. He didn't just talk about them being arrested. He said that they were racially profiling. Let's watch that.
I think they ought to take the violent criminals and get them out of my state and get them out of the country. I absolutely believe that, but that's not what they're doing. They said they were going after the worst of the worst. We want the bad guys off the street.
This is called doublespeak. Okay. Not everyone who commits. Okay. There could be an example of a, generally good person that was drunk driving. Okay. Could lead to the death, has lead to deaths God forbid, unfortunately, every day. That person, if that person is undocumented, ICE has to arrest the person, even if they're working at McDonald's. Okay. For a conviction, a drunk driving conviction. Okay. You might not see that conviction right there during the scene of the person being taken out of the McDonald's. But you can't be in a country, even if you're generally a good person, and have a drunk driving conviction or any other type of illegal activity. So it's all doublespeak. And they know that the way the Democrats work is anything that can drum up emotion, not specific, not actually repealing laws. If Pritzker wants to repeal these laws, why doesn't he do so? If Pelosi wants to, why doesn't she do so? Oh, that's right. Because they're morally superior Democrats who can't possibly put their words into legal or political action within Congress.
What we don't want is for people to get racially profiled. That's what's happening right now. They're racially profiling people who are black and brown, and they're demanding their papers. Are you a U.S. citizen? Prove it. I don't think Americans should have to do that.
The people lead.
So that is not happening. What is happening is the criminal background or the rap sheet of individuals are given to ICE. If the individual is not a citizen, or they're undocumented, then ICE goes and gets the person to deport them. If Democrats don't like people getting deported, then they repeal deportation laws. But again, this is like trying to explain quantum physics to a house cat. The Democratic Party works on emotion. That's it. Emotion.
the force on the ground through Border Patrol right now, they're 51% Hispanic. Do you take umbrage with what he just said?
In a deep and meaningful way. Our law enforcement officers are not violating the Constitution and doing their job. And that governor, instead of talking on the news and making up stories about what he thinks is happening, should stand a post.
Also, Trump got almost 50% of the Latino vote. He was on his way to actually winning the Latino vote in the United States of America. So the Democrats are losing Latino voters. Okay. Anyway, let's continue.
He should go out and go out for one night and see the work that these men and women are doing. And he'll learn and he'll understand that what they are doing is getting the scourge and the people that are here illegally out of this country. And look, this has happened in California already earlier this year. These false claims that our ICE agents, that our federal law enforcement officers are somehow racial profiling or doing the wrong thing in executing and doing their jobs. And courts have said that we're right and the Democrats are wrong. We're not doing that. And that's going to continue to happen for sure.
Well, you're also taking on the cartel. And there's all these legal pundits talking about these operations, but it's undeniable. The border is secure and you guys are taking the threats out of the sea, right?
It's another example of the difference between what President Trump, Attorney General Bondi, and all of our law enforcement partners are doing, including the Secretary of War, and what the Democrats apparently want done. We are saying we're going to stop the flow of drugs that have been happening in this country for generations. We're going to get them out and we're going to stop them from coming in. The borders are closed, and that's what we're doing every day. And you would expect the leaders of this country to say, thank you, how can we help? And instead, what you have is exactly the opposite. And it's something that we're going to continue to do. And it's something that the American people expect us to do. It's what President Trump said he would do. And it's what Attorney General Bondi, it's what I'm doing. It's what all the leaders in this administration are doing every day. And it's working. And we're not going to stop.
Yeah, I want to be on the side of the people that are killing the people that have killed all of our teens in the hundreds of thousands because of the fentanyl. I want to be on that side of history. Todd Blanche, thank you so much for joining the program.
So they were warned also, Democrats, months back. Check this out.
Pam Bondi. Pam, welcome back. Good to have you back. All right, before we get to the guy, well, this is just breaking, this letter that you have signed and now apparently sent out. I know this has happened in our nation's capital, and I guess the police chief or the mayor or somebody there, you know, had been telling police officers, the Metropolitan Police Department there, not to give up people that are in the country illegally. I thought we had a supremacy clause in the Constitution.
Sean, we do. D.C. will not remain a sanctuary city actively shielding criminal aliens. Will not happen. Under Donald Trump's directive, D.C. will become safe again, and it will become clean again. And I think what's happening is it's a combination of an extremely divisive city council. You have liberal judges, you have no cash bail, as you said, you have juveniles running rampant over this city, and you have a Metro Police Department. They want to do their jobs. And we have been out there for the last few nights with all of our federal agencies. Sean, they have been working so hard, working together. We've made 156 arrests, 27 firearms have been seized. Child pornographic material has been seized, over 200 fentanyl pills taken off the street, a homicide suspect with a firearm, and we are going to protect D.C. and make it safe again. But, you know, I think the most impactful thing that's happened, despite what we've seen with these crazy protesters out there, citizens are coming out of their homes and they're going up to these law enforcement officers and they're thanking them for keeping them safe and making the streets safe again. An elderly woman walks up to law enforcement and thanks them so she can go to the market again. So they are seeing the impact of what our law enforcement officers are doing under Donald Trump's directive, and they're going to continue to do it. We're going to work hand in hand with state, federal, local officers, and we're going to make D.C. safe again.
Fundamentally, when you have a sanctuary city or a sanctuary state, aren't you, by definition, aiding and abetting in the law breaking? Mm-hmm. And if you are protecting them, and not allowing, even though the federal government would have jurisdiction constitutionally, are you aiding and abetting? Are these politicians that are purposely hiding illegal immigrants or not informing or working with ICE, are they themselves guilty of crimes?
Well, and what they're trying to do, they're trying to protect criminal aliens. And what's going to happen if we keep this up? Criminals are going to flee to D.C., and we're not going to let that happen. And that's why at my directive, we have made Terry Cole now the commissioner over the police. We have made Gaddy Serralto my U.S. Marshal. He runs the entire show, keeping everyone organized, and they report directly to me, and I report to the President of the United States. So yes, you must comply. You must give the information to our ICE, to our Homeland Security officers. If they have information of an illegal alien living in D.C., they must give us that information, and we are going to stop crime, Sean, in D.C., and we're going to clean it up in this country. And President Trump is committed to that. No longer is that going to happen in this beautiful city where our tourists come, where our residents live. We all live here. We are going to keep it safe. And it's our nation's capital. It's beautiful, and it's going to be beautiful and clean again.
Okay, let's focus and dial in. So D.C., sanctuary city, L.A., sanctuary city, San Francisco, sanctuary city, New York City, sanctuary city.
Again, my view on this topic is somewhat nuanced, but I agree with President Trump generally. Of course, the vast majority of undocumented immigrants are very great, wonderful, hardworking, family-oriented individuals. Okay, the hardest working people you've ever seen in your life are undocumented immigrants. Honestly, the hardest working, people. Good, a lot of the times, good, salt of the earth, wonderful, religious, family oriented, absolutely wonderful people. The problem is that there is protocol. There are legally things you have to do to become a citizen. We have immigration laws. You have to pass certain requirements. Okay. People wait years and years and years, and they spend a lot of money to become citizens. That being said, there's also a very small, tiny percentage in terms of aggregate numbers, could be a lot, because with 330 million Americans, that should not be in any country. That's why we have deportation laws. If Democrats, again, I keep stressing this because it's important people understand. If they don't like ICE, then repeal deportation laws. ICE is enforcing these laws. Democrats don't want to repeal the laws because they know they would lose politically. It's not popular nationwide. They can't do so. They don't have the political power, and even if they did, they wouldn't do so. Okay, just like with Medicare for All or Green New Deal, when they had Congress, they didn't do anything with those things, with those their alleged value system. So they want to create as much hysteria as possible. They want to create chaos and mayhem in the streets, but guess what? Trump has the National Guard everywhere. Trump also has ICE agents enforcing these laws. Okay, potentially you have undocumented immigrants swaying elections. Potentially, possibly. Okay, according to Elon Musk and others. So the Democratic Party, they're in a very, very bad political shape. They don't want to amend specific laws or repeal the specific deportation laws. So instead, they want to create as much havoc as possible. They want to create as much turmoil as possible, because you better believe a month before November of 2026, they're not going to be talking about ICE, because the average voter in Congress and these congressional elections are going to say, okay, we actually want ICE to work and protect and defend and enforce immigration laws. So they're not going to be talking about ICE now. I mean, in 2026, a month before the midterms. But they're talking about it now to stir up as much hysteria, knowing very well that they have no plans on repealing deportation laws, which Democrats can do in Congress. But they won't do because the Democratic Party message is completely disingenuous.
California sanctuary state. What does this mean in reality for all of these locations, municipalities, states moving forward?
They must comply. Yesterday, I sent out 33 letters to mayors around this country. I think 3 or 4 of them were in California alone, not surprising. I sent out letters to all of these mayors and to the governors saying, you must comply. We want to know what you're doing to comply with our federal government. So we're going to see, I'll let you know how they respond. They have 5 days to respond to me.
Okay, let me move on, and I want to ask you about this incident where the DOJ employee charged with felony assault after hitting this federal agent with this Subway sandwich. May not sound like a big threat. What a lot of people may not be thinking of, an agent being assaulted like that, they have no idea what is being hurled at them, and this is...
Why are Democrats and morally superior liberals and progressives and leftists, why do they have to show such violent emotion? Like, why do they have to display such emotion through violence, through this kind of behavior, throwing a ham sandwich or a Subway sandwich? And then the rebuttal is, well, what's the big deal? It's not that big of a deal. Well, but if a Trump supporter did that, it would be like, oh my God, insurrection with the Subway sandwich. Oh, like they murdered Charlie Kirk, and one person did it, but it was entire, and they're still like mocking it because he was sitting down, Charlie Kirk, and talking, and they still call that hate. And they don't know what the word means. They don't know what the word hate means. Constitution, republic, democracy, everything is a synonym for their political, either alleged value system or political party. But it's like, what is this? You can't put a lawn sign up on your lawn. You can't wear a Make America Great Again hat without possibly some deranged, morally superior person trying to take it off. What? They can't control their emotions? You think I was happy? You think the world was happy with Biden for 4 years, stumbling and bumbling, God bless him, and allowing major invasions and 21% price increase? I've never seen a Biden hat, but if I did, I wouldn't take it off somebody. What kind of person? There are people who, why would you key a Tesla? They're keying Teslas, taking MAGA hats off people, God forbid. In Charlie Kirk's case, like taking people's lives. It's unbelievable. Just vote for AOC and leave it at that. Or, vote for Bernie Sanders and watch him get cheated and just accept it like always. Why the physical, the kind of visceral reaction? They can't control themselves. They can't control it. They're so morally superior. Oh my God, they're so morally superior.
Is now going to be charged as a felony. What message is the Department of Justice now sending people that are attacking agents this way? And what do you say to the people that are tipping off illegal immigrants?
Well, we're coming after you. We've made that very clear. And that guy worked for the Department of Justice. Unbelievable. He came into our office every day, walked by law enforcement officers, worked in the criminal division. That's the deep state that we have been up against. Worked in our office, yet at night, he went out and did that. No longer. He's now a felon, charged with a felony, and he's fired from the Department of Justice. If you touch a law enforcement officer, if you spit on a law enforcement officer, if you batter a law enforcement officer, we are coming after you. Fired from the Department.
Him throwing that Subway sandwich is basically today's Democratic Party. It does nothing. It's a felony. He worked for the DOJ. This is the wonderful morally superior that set up and framed Trump and said he was a Russian operative. But they're morally superior. Believe me, I know a lot of beautiful, amazing people, morally superior, texting me, oh, I can't be your friend anymore. Oh, how dare you? You're on the wrong side of history. Oh, my God. Oh. They set up and framed Trump. He was an innocent man. They created an absurd McCarthy-era hoax, but they don't know what it is. They don't know what any of these things are, but they're morally superior on the right side of history, but they don't know what the Steele dossier is. It's like explaining quantum physics to a house cat. They don't know. They don't care. It's not even part of their lexicon. They don't understand. Deportation laws exist. Why don't you repeal the deportation laws, Democrats? They cheat their own candidates in primaries. They don't stand for anything but this type of throwing a Subway sandwich and then running. And then what does that prove? That this person was apparently the DOJ. Now you have a felony. Now he apparently has a felony on his record. For what purpose?
Of justice. If you touch a law enforcement officer, if you spit on a law enforcement officer, if you batter a law enforcement officer, we are coming after you. No longer will you abuse the great men and women of law enforcement. We're going to stand by you, we're going to stand with you, and we're going to protect you.
You know, I know you can't talk about very specific legal action that may be underway or a grand jury that may be impaneled, but we are reading that, in fact, a lot of the information that Tulsi Gabbard has been able to share with the public and make public, and the same with John Ratcliffe, that, in fact, there are people that purposely, my interpretation of it, seemingly trying to sabotage. I'll give you one example, the Russia hoax. We had a career senior intelligence assessment of the 2016 election. Then there was an order to go out and get another one because they didn't like the result of the first one. We know that the Hillary Clinton bought and paid for Russian disinformation dossier was used for not one but 4 FISA warrants, and yet they knew very early on that it was.
So that's happening. We'll talk about John Brennan probably around 7 p.m. Eastern this evening. That indictment is taking place. But this is Tom Homan. And again, if you don't like ICE, then ask yourself why Democrats haven't repealed these laws. If you're this leftist, and I used to be on the left my whole life up until 8 years ago, I get it. The average leftist and progressive and Democrat and liberal feels that they're like on the side of justice, and they're defending good and honorable and virtuous and decent behavior, and they're on the side of the working people and the unfortunate, and they're trying to help, and they're this shining, this guardian of justice. And they're on the right side of history. Then if you feel that way about ICE, then why, for the 50th time, why don't they repeal 8 U.S. Code 1227, 1229, 1325, 1326, the deportation statutes? Oh, that's right. Because just like the Democratic primary, today's Democratic Party is complete farce. It's all for show. That's why they're so embedded with Hollywood. They don't want to actually change laws, which they could do in Congress. Do you think AOC or Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren or Nancy Pelosi wants to change or amend or repeal deportation laws or Pritzker? They won't touch these laws because they know they would lose the next whatever election it is, whether it's Congress or for governor or for presidency. So instead, they want to create as much hysteria as possible and lie by omission or overtly lie. And that's what they did with Medicare for All, Green New Deal. The Democrats are playing the entire liberal leftist electorate. And that's okay, because if you're a leftist and you say, hey, wait a second, I'm not for Trump, but I don't want this. Oh my God, you're a Trumper. And that's it. You're excommunicated. It's like a cult. But anyway, let's continue.
Democrats are pushing back as ICE launches Operation Midway Blitz in Illinois, as the state's governor pushes back against the Trump administration's crackdown on criminal migrants again.
We are trying to protect all the residents of the state of Illinois. These are people who, people talk about, Donald Trump likes to talk about immigrants as criminals. These are not criminals.
No, he doesn't. He got 46, almost 50% of the Latino vote. No, he doesn't. That's why people are leaving Democrats, because of statements like that. Because that's why nobody trusts media. President Trump never said all immigrants are criminals. Never, ever, ever. His wife, God bless her, is an immigrant. They lie. The media and Democratic politicians and Republican and never Trump Republicans also. They lie so much, it's unbelievable. Let's continue.
These are people who are genuinely here in this country, holding down jobs. They've been here for 10, 20, 30 years, raising families here, paying taxes, following the law, doing the right thing.
Border Czar Tom Holman joins us now. Tom, it's good to see you, brother.
Good morning.
So I want to go over a Houston operation because Texas, we don't allow sanctuary cities, but you guys were still able to detain 822 people. 112 previously were deported and re-entered in the country. You found 5 transnational gang members and 330 with deportation orders. What do you anticipate when you go to Chicago?
Simply, if you're AOC or if you're Democrat or if you're leftist, just say this should be allowed. Okay? Just say it should be allowed. Run on it. Run on repealing laws that are enforced for this to take place. They won't do that. They would rather create hysteria. And the vast majority of what ICE is doing is for people who committed major, major crimes. Okay? But again, Democrats won't admit that.
What do you anticipate when you go to Chicago this week?
Chicago arrests a few hundred illegal alien criminals, and Pritzker is wrong. He says that he can't understand. These illegal aliens that he thinks are citizens and paying taxes, they cheated the system. There are millions of people standing in line, taking their tests, doing their background investigations, paying their fees to be part of the greatest nation on earth. Every one of these people broke the law. It's a crime to enter this country illegally. And we can't reward illegal behavior. So even though we're focusing the priority, President Trump has prioritized public safety threats and national security threats in a sanctuary city like Chicago, where they force us into the community to find the criminal because they won't give us access to the jail, like Cook County Jail. We're going to find the criminal in the neighborhood. We have to go to the neighborhood to find them, and we're going to find others. Others aren't criminals, but they're illegal aliens, and they're going to go too. So if Governor Pritzker wants less, what he calls collateral arrest, then let us in the damn jail so we can arrest the criminal in the safety and security of a jail rather than release a public safety threat back into the public, which is just dumb.
Tom, all you're asking is 48 hours to come pick these criminal migrants up, and they're refusing to do so. You keep hearing the Illinois governor say that you want cooperation, but they don't want to cooperate. Meanwhile, these are some of the people that you picked up, an MS-13 gang member, someone that was wanted for robbery and larceny and burglary. These are the folks that y'all picked up in Houston, a convicted child sex offender. And in the list, convicted of sexually assault against a minor. So these are the people that are in the country right now that you want the mayor, the governor to cooperate with getting them out of the country.
Exactly. I look at the numbers every morning, Lawrence, and we arrested several thousand sexual predators. Many of them sexual assault of a child as young as 2. So these are just the worst of the worst that we're focusing on. And despite what the left media says, I look at the numbers every morning. 70% of everybody we arrest is a criminal. Who are the other 30%? Many national security threats. We've arrested thousands of national security threats. Most of them don't have criminal histories because they're laying low until they do their dirty deed. We arrest a lot of gang members who don't yet have a criminal history. And plus we arrest people with final orders, people who had due process at great taxpayer expense. A federal judge ordered them removed and they didn't leave. They became a fugitive. We're arresting them too. I can stand by every arrest ISIS made. The numbers speak the truth. We're making this country safer every day. President Trump promised the American people we will make this country safe. Every criminal, illegal alien, and national security threat that the brave men and women of ICE take off the street, makes this country safer, gives us stronger national security. One of the reasons we have the most secure border in history right now is because of great work of President Trump, the men and women of the Border Patrol, and ICE, because we're showing the whole world there are consequences for violating our laws.
It's the first time in my lifetime that we've had operational control of the border. Meanwhile, in Boston, the mayor continues to resist, the governor as well. Michelle Wu just advanced in the primary. Is this what the voters want? I mean, 70% is a high number. Of course, this is not the general election, but she has a ton of support in Boston, even though she protects these criminal migrants.
That's incredible, but I don't care who the mayor is. We're going to do our job. If mayors and governors don't want to help, then get out of the way. Because if you don't want to make your city safer, we will. Because I'm not saying that every illegal alien is a significant public safety threat, but many are. So there's a percentage of those criminals that are here illegally. We're coming for them. They're not going to stop us. They can stand aside and watch us do their job. However, they better not step over the line. They better not impede our efforts, or there's going to be consequences. Pam Bondi's been all over this for the last few weeks. So we're.
And I think that if you look, here's the letter. Okay, the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice will investigate and prosecute any state or local official who violates the federal statutes. That includes Nancy Pelosi. That includes Pritzker. That includes anyone who is any state official, either a mayor or either a governor, mayor, congressional representative, senator. The Department of Justice will investigate and prosecute any state or local official who violates these federal statutes or directs or conspires with others to violate them. Accordingly, you are hereby directed to preserve all written electronic communication and records. That is a can of worms also, because then they say, well, hey, you obstructed justice. You deleted these emails. You shredded those documents. And they are conspiring. They're working with each other. Oh, what's the best thing for the Democratic Party? And they're not going to say it in that way, but they're going. That's why the DNC and WikiLeaks publication and The Guardian and New York Times, when they published all the emails that Democrats wrote, it was a plot by the Russians to let you know how corrupt they were. So they don't want emails exposed, and now the DOJ and the FBI are going to obtain emails. We urge you and other California officials to publicly abandon this apparent criminal conspiracy. Apparent criminal conspiracy. DOJ tells California officials to back off apparent criminal conspiracy. Stand down or face prosecution. Okay, but like a moth to a flame, that's, it's a game of chicken, but now the federal agents, these are federal crimes. The Department of Justice will investigate. We urge you and other California officials to publicly abandon this apparent criminal conspiracy, to stop threatening law enforcement, and to prioritize the safety of your citizens. In the meantime, federal agents and officers will continue to enforce federal law and will not be deterred by the threat of arrest by California authorities who have abdicated their duty to protect their constituents. Todd Blanche. Okay? This was yesterday. So they're serious. They're not playing around. They are not playing around. And so they're I bet you Trump and the administration, Tom Homan, they're begging for one ICE agent to be arrested. Because once that happens, you have the Supremacy Clause of the United States Constitution, and you have specific legal statutes that California officials or other officials might break. U.S. Code 1324, 18 U.S. Code 111, 18 U.S. Code 372, 18 U.S. Code 1505, and other statutes as well. So, let's continue.
We're coming. We're going to be there tomorrow. We're going to be there next day. We're going to be there next month. We're going to be there next year. You're not stopping from what we're doing. We're making this country safer every day, and we got a lot of work to do.
So, Tom, y'all did a massive bust, and you had the South Koreans that were here illegally in the country that were detained.
U.S. citizens get arrested.
These are terms that relate to totalitarian regimes where actually people are disappeared. Okay, they're taken away simply for speech or for politics. But again, those totalitarian regimes in any parts of the world don't have the following laws. Well, they might actually, but they don't have these specific laws, okay, that are being enforced. So within the statutes, there's nothing about disappearing anyone. It's about enforcing the laws. Democrats, again, can repeal the laws for the 70th time this live stream. They won't repeal. They won't repeal these laws. They would rather feel good going after Tom Homan than actually repeal the laws.
Every day. U.S. citizens get arrested by police every day. Are they being disappeared? No, their laws are being enforced. They're being arrested. They're being put in detention because they committed a criminal offense.
Not like what you're doing.
Because he's not arresting citizens. He's deporting people who are not citizens, which are it's within the existing deportation statutes that Democrats passed. My God almighty.
Not even close.
We're enforcing the law and arresting people here in violation of law that are public safety threats. That's not disappearing people. That's enforcing the laws of this country and making this country safer.
Kennedy.
I like that he was able to back up his argument. I mean, I have shared skepticism about the way we've done certain enforcement in this country, but I think, right now, for people who are getting into law enforcement, they actually want to go work with ICE because they know there's a lot of focus and a lot of money going into that department. And when he talks about the most dangerous people in a city who are finally being apprehended, Michelle Wu can come out and virtue signal, but at the same time, in private, all of these people are breathing a sigh of relief because they don't have to deal with them anymore because of their horrible progressive laws. And instead of incarcerating and really punishing the people who are committing these crimes over and over and over again, and those aren't blanket dragnets that are being complained about here in New York City. That is very targeted, but they're not doing that. And it makes the cities and the communities, especially the immigrant communities, less safe.
That's an excellent point because they are.
So again, they just wrote a letter to California Democrats. If an ICE agent is arrested, the Democrat is likely going to be arrested. Check this out.
The ante against ICE saying, quote, our state and local authorities may arrest federal agents if they break California law, and if they are convicted, the president cannot pardon them. We will not be intimidated by politically motivated fear tactics. Here to respond is Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. Deputy Attorney General, thanks so much for joining the program. Let's go specifically to Nancy Pelosi. Local agents, local cops cannot arrest federal agents, right?
Of course they can. And what the Congresswoman did yesterday, what the governor of Illinois said yesterday, does nothing but harm this country. You cannot touch federal agents when they're doing their job. And that's something that they know. It's something that we reminded them of last night, because if you do, you're committing a crime.
No state can arrest an ICE agent doing his or her job. Okay? That's not possible because of the Supremacy Clause, but also because of the federal statutes that are mentioned within the letter that Todd Blanche sent to Pelosi and other Democrats. They can't arrest, but again, for the 1,000th time, do you think that Pelosi wants to repeal deportation statutes? What about amending them? What about repealing certain portions? Nothing. They would rather level vitriol and venom towards ICE agents, enforcing existing statutes that Democrats don't want to touch. Democrats passed and also back these statutes. And this is the blind spot within leftist politics or democratic or progressive politics. Do you want to make an actual change, or do you just want to feel good about yourself and feel morally superior at the expense of being morally inferior? If you want to amend or repeal laws, here are the laws. What is the point of going after ICE agents who are actually enforcing laws that Democrats back? There's no point. But to amend or repeal laws would be a losing proposition for Democrats politically. So they would rather create emotion, mayhem, all of the emotion and the mayhem and all of that. Because if they do that, they can circumvent actually doing politics, actually changing laws in Congress. Like, for example, passing a Medicare for All bill. But they would rather complain about health care. They would rather complain about ICE than repealing statutes, immigration statutes. They would rather complain about, the environment and the world than pass Green New Deal legislation. Why don't they pass Green New Deal legislation or Medicare for All or repeal immigration statutes? Because their value system does not correlate to reality or to political reality. If they truly believed what they claim to believe, what they pontificate about, they would change the laws, add new laws. But they don't want to do that because they know they would lose even more so than they've already been losing.
And the amazing thing about what happened is yesterday, President Trump announced and formally launched the Homeland Security Task Force. This is, in our modern history, the single largest effort by law enforcement to combat narco-terrorists and to get the scourge and the drug dealers out of this country. In just 60 days, we've arrested over 3,200 drug dealers and either gotten them out of this country or put them in jail. On that same day, you have Pelosi, you have other congresswomen, you have a congressman from New York, and you have the governor of Illinois not praising that, not thanking President Trump, but saying that federal law enforcement agents should be arrested.
And within, there's an apparent criminal conspiracy among certain Democratic politicians. The DOJ has accused them of an apparent criminal conspiracy. So it's a game of chicken, and I think that Trump's administration wants Democrats to arrest an ICE agent, because then so many people will be indicted. So many congresspeople, mayors, governors will face indictment because ICE is enforcing federal law. Okay? ICE enforces federal law. Hit subscribe if you're new. If there's any morally superior, highly educated leftist or progressive or Democrat, and they're on the right side of history and they're morally superior. ICE is enforcing, we'll speak slowly so people understand. ICE is enforcing 8 U.S. Code 1227, 8 U.S. Code 1229, 8 U.S. Code 1325, and 1326. These laws are about deportation and removal from the country. That's why you have ICE. If you repeal these laws or amend these laws, then ICE agents cannot deport people. But then that would require Democrats to actually run in Congress on repealing specific deportation statutes, and they will lose the House, and they will lose the presidential election in 2028, and they will lose congressional seats. They can't do that. So what do? They create absolute hysteria. And they ignore the fact that ICE is taking very violent, dangerous people out of the country. And then they say, oh my God, look at them, McDonald's worker. Look, this is what ICE is doing. And yeah, that happens, but that McDonald's worker or whatever might have had an arrest, which doesn't allow you. If you don't have if you're not a citizen and you're arrested under the existing deportation statutes, you can be removed from the country. Democrats know this. but they don't want to actually implement anything in Congress. The Green New Deal, Medicare for all, the hysteria on ICE, keying Teslas, it's part of cheating Bernie Sanders, kicking Biden out of office after he won the most votes ever, and putting Harris in instead of Biden, who never got even one primary vote, is the modern Democratic Party. Stands for nothing, endless quest for political power, only emotion-driven. That's why you have Democrats like wonderful, morally superior friends and family members disowning friends and family members because they don't know the specifics of politics. They don't really understand that, oh, wow, there are deportation statutes that can be amended or repealed. What they see is ICE is, oh, my God, this is a totalitarian regime. And they don't see that they're taking really violent, dangerous people out of the country. Okay. That's not really even important to Democrats at all. That's why Kathy Hochul said, why are you so interested in crime to the Republican Lee Zeldin. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel if you are new to my super chat. Thank you. I'll be back, ladies, and go to H.A. Goodman's other channel right now. We will have a segment on H.A. Goodman's other channel right now. It'll be in the description and also in the pinned comment. God bless you all. I'll be back probably around 6 or 7 p.m. Eastern this evening. Thanks, everybody. Hit subscribe and go to H.A. Goodman's other channel right now. And, TBJ, thank you for always watching and for always watching and for always being so supportive. TBJ, thank you. Greatly appreciated. I'll see you.